Whether it's $100 refer a friend for existing customers or $50 for $150 for new customers, I have plenty of deals for all types of punters. Inbox me for details.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of The Locker Room. I am here with Dan the Hangman Hooker. How you going, brother? UFC fighter, 3-2, on to bigger and better things at the moment. You've been on a bit of a roll lately. How you been?
Yeah, good. Training out in the sun here in Phuket, Thailand, so can't complain about life at this stage, mate.
And, recently been put on the card for Melbourne. You were putting a push towards hopefully replacing BJ Penn, pulling out of the Manila card. But, Melbourne, it's got to be the second best thing to New Zealand for you. I'm sure you're excited for the Melbourne card, Rockhold versus Jacare. It's going to be a fantastic card, hopefully as big as the Ronda Rousey one. How are you feeling towards that?
Yeah, definitely. I feel the love from the Melbourne crowd. I used to fight there in the AFC days before UFC, so I'm actually undefeated on Australian soil in the UFC as well. So I can't wait to get in there, man. I feel comfortable. I feel at home, especially in Melbourne. Undefeated in Melbourne as well. So Australia's good to me, man.
And, for yourself personally, take us all the way back to when you started. You're 3-2 in the UFC now, so you haven't lost via stoppage. The only losses you've had are 2 decisions, and then you've stopped 3 people in a division that is completely stacked. It's a really stacked division with some fantastic fighters. So you've really built yourself a platform to go on, and 2 or 3 wins down the track, who knows? It could be you could start talking about title shots for yourself. Take us all the way back to a young Dan Hooker. What was it like growing up from New Zealand, and how'd you get into everything UFC related?
Yeah, so my story, I just finished school. I played a lot of sport growing up. Coming through school, I played rugby union and then moved to rugby league. That was kind of my passion. I had this idea that I was going to be the first 50-kilo NRL player in the... But once I finished school, I went to an MMA event, and it was my friend, New Zealand heavyweight champ, Steve Warby at the time, and he was having his first fight. So I went along and just to support him. I'd grown up and it'd been big influence to me coming up because he was always, the tough guy, and he always had our backs. Whenever we got into a bit of trouble, you'd go get Steve, and then the problem was kind of sorted. So I'd always looked up to him growing up, and he was having this MMA fight. I had no idea at the time, what it all involved. And he was having his first fight, and I went along, and he just knocked this guy into the ground in about 30 seconds. He KO'd his opponent, and the crowd went nuts, and I was feeling the rush from the crowd. I was feeling the energy, and I was just like, man, I want this feeling for myself. So I started harassing him, and I was, come on, can you take me to the gym? Can you take me to the gym? Monday morning, he took me into the gym, and he introduced me to MMA. And it wasn't the easiest of starts, but I think the way I started out really kind of hooked my passion for the sport.
And, from personal experience, I've played rugby league, I've played soccer, I've played all of these sports, and you get an understanding via watching those sports of what it would kind of be like. You can kind of grasp of, okay, run the ball hard, tackle, all those kind of things. Don't get me wrong, they're still hard sports. But boxing, when I first went into a boxing class and actually sparred someone, I was shocked at how much I didn't know, and also how vulnerable I was and how terrible I was at a sport that when you watch it on TV, it doesn't look too hard. Throw punches, it looks pretty simple. What was the first time like for you when you walked into that MMA gym? You would have been 50 kilos, wringing wet, keen as mustard to knock some blokes out like you saw your mate do in that MMA fight. What was it like for you when you first walked into that gym in your first session?
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I came along with the idea, I wanted to get in the ring and I wanted to compete. And so, I had no idea what to expect. I'd had no martial arts experience. I hadn't done kung fu as a kid. I hadn't done a single thing. So I had no idea what to expect. Kind of that first day, I walked into the gym and met my trainer, this little Danish guy, very unassuming at the time. And I was thinking, this is the coach. I was expecting some big, muscly, tattooed guy that's going to show me what's what. But he's just a small guy, looked like me, and I was thinking, oh, yeah, he doesn't look that tough. We started off double leg takedowns. So we learned double leg takedowns at first, and pretty much all I was doing was a rugby tackle. I'd just run at the guy, rugby tackle him into the ground, and that was that. And then we did about 10, 15 minutes of that, and he goes, okay, boys, gloves on, sparring. And, I'd had a few rumbles kind of growing up, as any young boy does, no more than anyone else I was growing up with. So I had, my own kind of style, and I was thinking, this is a bit soon, but, I kind of think I'll be able to handle myself, So we start sparring, and I get paired up with the coach. And so I was, start moving around, doing my thing I usually do, and he just, bang, he hits me in the body, and I crumple to the ground, man. I go down. I'd never felt anything like that in my life. Pretty much my whole body shut down. I couldn't breathe. He'd punched me in the liver, and I couldn't breathe. I'd shut down. I'm crumpled in a heap on the ground, and he's telling me, oh, get up, get back up, get back up. He's yelling at me to get up, so I was thinking, oh, yeah, all right. Stand back up. Bang! He hits me in the body again. I go down for a second time, and I was thinking, well, this has got to be it. He says, get up, get up. Oh, man, two, 3 more times he punches me in the body, puts me down. And it just let me know how vulnerable I was. I thought I had a bit of an idea of how to fight, and then a guy my size, looks like me, same, unassuming nature, and he whooped me like nothing else, man. And it was that night as well. So I'd taken these beatings on the feet, and then I heard about this thing called jiu-jitsu. And I looked at the class. There's a bunch of nerds in karate outfits, and I was just thinking, I don't really want to give this thing a go, but, I don't want to hurt anybody. So I put my karate outfit on, I jump in the class. Next thing, I'm tapping like crazy. I would have tapped out, 20, 30 times that first day. So I go home. I've been dropped like never before. I've been tapped out to these crazy submission moves that I've never heard of. And it just got me hooked. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I wanted to develop. So I kind of went in there not expecting anything. And I just, from that first day, I really felt a passion, and I was hooked. And I started, I was at the gym every single day after that, just learning and growing and getting as good at this as I could, because I wanted to do to other people what I got done to me that first day. So that was my first experience in the gym. It wasn't the easiest of roads, but I think it helped me learn the fastest.
Do you think that your coach intentionally wanted to test your mettle and just kind of, what is this guy made of? Is he because I'm sure they get plenty of guys coming to the gym thinking that they know how to handle themselves, and they're essentially wasting everyone's time because they're just there to try and get better at fighting so they can go fight blokes on the street or whatever. Do you think it was an intentional move by your coach at the time to say, let's test this guy's mettle, see what he's made of. If he is made of what we need him to be made of, we'll put some time into him?
Oh, 100%. I learned over time. That's just how my coach John rolled, man. Anyone you knew would come in the gym and have a go at him or try him. He'd test their mettle, and he'd put them out, and it was really interesting to see the kind of person that responded, because I learned over time that you can actually never judge someone by looking at them, whether they're gonna have that medal or not have that medal. It's really the most interesting thing that martial arts has taught me, because I've seen the smallest, nerdiest, geekiest guy just get hit, bite down, and come back swinging and just be so tenacious. And I've seen the toughest looking guys, gang members covered in tattoos, they walk around 10 foot tall and bulletproof. They get tested, they get hit in the body, and they don't get up. They want to go home after that. So from judging a book by its cover in martial arts is really just not a thing, because I can't tell to this day, until you get put under pressure and your mettle gets tested, how you're going to respond to that.
And what's been, your most surprising person that you remember coming into the gym, where you've been like, wow, this guy I never expected him to have this kind of mental toughness to be able to push through. What's been the most surprising guy that you can recall that maybe is still a part of your gym now?
Yeah, there'll be many cases of that. The biggest surprise, I guess, would be my coach from day one, John Olsen. The way you look at him, the way he carries himself is just so unassuming. You would never pick how much of a badass this guy is. So he was my coach from day one. He's actually a police officer now, and I'm glad he's a top man because he's so relaxed, so unassuming. You'd never want to push this guy because he's the most skilled martial artist I've ever come across in my life, man. But he just doesn't fit the script. He doesn't look the part. People have said that to me. I didn't. They'll try to pick on me or start a fight, and then but I didn't know you could fight. It's like, well, you were trying to bully me or pick on me when you didn't know I can fight. Now you know I can fight. Oh no, I didn't know you could fight.
Yeah, typical bully. As soon as someone stands up, all of a sudden they're whoa.
Yeah, and they're the kind of person that really doesn't last that long in the gym because it's a constant battle of humility and ego in the gym. So unless you have that equal balance of humility to learn your lessons and come back the next day, some people, they come in and they have this built up idea of how tough they are. They have an idea of it, and then they get tested and they really don't respond the way they wanted to respond, and they kind of just never put themselves in that situation again. Kind of person that succeeds at martial arts is the kind of person that they get put in that situation. They could break or they could quit, but they come back the next day and they learn and they come back and they want to put time into getting better. So it really takes this level of humility and of ego at the same time to progress as a martial artist.
And what do you think martial artists has taught you, as a man mostly? You were 18 when you did decide to go to the gym. There would have been a lot of life lessons, from sport in general. You learn a lot of life lessons, but I assume, especially with that masculine energy and MMA, there would be the life lessons that you learn from sport would be taken to the extreme, if you will. What's the biggest lesson that martial arts has kind of taught you, and things that you've learned about yourself?
It's been such a shift of focus over time. I started the sport and I just wanted to fight. I just wanted to get in there, and I kind of felt like I had something to prove as a fighter. I wanted to prove to everyone, how tough I was, and I just wanted to be the toughest guy, the best fighter. And then over time that progresses. I kind of went from a fighter and then developed into a martial artist where I wanted to focus on the skill. And I used the sport and martial arts to better myself as a person. It became, the better person I was outside of the gym. It also reflected in the gym. If I stopped drinking, well then my training improved. If I stopped going out late and partying, then my performances in fights would improve. So it's really been this progression over time where I learned that the better person I am outside of the cage, and the more calmer person, and the more I deal with situations in a mature manner, the better my performances are when I step in and fight. Now it's developed into a way that I can support my family and really make a living. So now it's shifted from just this focus on martial arts to now I have to develop myself as a business and market myself as a business and carry myself as a professional athlete, because that's what you are essentially. A fighter doesn't look at themselves as a professional athlete, but a professional MMA fighter must carry themselves with the same esteem that a professional athlete carries themselves. You're in the public eye. You can't go out there doing crazy things and drinking and partying, and you have to have that focus and discipline that a martial artist has to succeed as a professional athlete.
And so, walk us through the next 3 months. You know, it was 3 months. You said around 2 or 3 months before you had your first fight. Now, for anyone that doesn't know mixed martial arts or boxing, that is an extremely quick time to have a first fight. How did that all come about? What was the conversation like? And yeah, what was it like when you did have your first fight? And how did you go?
Yeah, well, you know, my coach says, "Oh, I think you're ready for a fight," and I was, you know, this is what I wanted from day one, you know. So I wasn't shocked at all when he said it. I was kind of like, yep. And he'd matched me up for an amateur fight, someone my own weight, someone, you know, a bit more experience, but not too much. So it was a pretty fair match. And then a couple of weeks out from that, he says, "Oh, do you want to fight pro instead next weekend?" And I was thinking. I asked, "Oh, what does pro mean?" And he just said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It just means no shin pads." So I was thinking, "Oh, well, that's better. You know, I don't want to wear shin pads when I fight anyway." So it all happened a bit quickly because, you know, just young and dumb and keen and just wanted to get in there. So I was having my first pro fight after, you know, 3-4 months of training, and you know, it was just a crazy rush, man, a crazy experience. I went in there and I was matched with an older guy. I didn't take too much notice of his record or anything like that. I was just focused on myself. And it turned out all right. I won the fight in under a minute, you know, about 40-something seconds. But I was just a ball of energy. I think I ran across the cage at the guy. I threw 6 head kicks. He kind of tripped over after one of them. I jumped on his back. I snuck in a choke and I just squeezed as hard as I could. And so it all paid off and turned out well. And there's nothing like the rush of that first win, man. I was walking around on cloud 9 for 2 weeks after that fight.
And so, you know, how long until your next fight? And what, you know, were people shocked at how well you had gone in your first fight? I mean, to finish a guy in your first ever fight in 45 seconds is amazing.
Yeah, well, I just turned 19, so I was still, you know, fairly young. I had no understanding of the New Zealand MMA scene at the time. You know, I'd just been hanging out with this Danish guy, and we train in these you know, underground gyms, or we're training at this Aikido gym, and pretty much he's just beating me up, and that's all the experience I had. I'm just getting beat up. I had no idea of my talent or the New Zealand scene or what fighting professionally meant. But I actually still had that amateur fight 2 weeks later. So I fought pro. 2 weeks later, I fought amateur because I just had no idea of what it all meant.
Yep.
So I mean,
that amateur fight would have been a breeze for you. Would have been like sparring.
I hated it, man. I hated it because I fought pro, and you know, you could elbow, you know, you had no shin pads or anything like that. I went and fought amateur, and you couldn't punch the guy in the head on the ground, and you're wearing shin pads, and I thought, well, I'm never fighting this, you know, this bloody amateur rules again. I don't like this at all. I like the feeling of there being, you know, these no restraints. That's one of the things that really excited me about the sport when I first started.
And, you know, what do you think, being part of the UFC now, what do you think is the, I guess, the biggest hurdle that UFC and MMA face over the next maybe 6 months? You know, UFC has just been bought out by, I think it's WME, which is a huge entertainment kind of, like with a agency, I think, entertainment agency. What's the biggest issue in the UFC right now that you would love to see improve? Would you love to see Bellator become a legit competitor, or, you know, what's the biggest issue at the moment for you guys, do you think?
For me, personally, I just want to get more fights. You know, the divisions are very stacked right now, and there's a lot of fighters on the books, and there's a lot of shows, but I'd just like to fight more regularly. You know, we're having 2-3 fights a year. I'd like to get that up to 4 or 5 fights a year. Just stay active, stay busy, stay competing, because I think that's the biggest focus of my career now, is just I want to fight. Like, I still have that drive and that hunger, and I just feel like fighting once every 6 months is just not enough. You know, it's not about money, it's not about anything like that. I just love to compete, and I love to fight, and I just want to get in there as much as possible.
Oh, definitely. And you know yourself, you had that first fight, you won. Obviously, it would have been an addictive feeling, that feeling of winning in front of your family, your friends. You cannot replace that. And I'm sure you probably have never felt that way again, that first win, that first victory, the relief of stress, all that kind of stuff. How long after that did you feel like, wow, I'm genuinely talented at this and I could go on to do huge things?
I think it's been a recent development for me. I think I've always had the mindset, and I've always been quite an intelligent fighter, and you know that I've had the skill set there mentally. You know, I always knew that my skill set was very high, and I was very smart as a fighter. But I think the last piece to the puzzle that I've kind of put together is confidence. I'm very confident in my ability now. I think that was going out, testing my skills against the best fighters in the world, training in America, training overseas, and now I know in myself what I can achieve, you know, and I can be the champion of the world, you know, I can be UFC champion, and I'm very confident that I will achieve that dream one day.
And so, you know, when was the call up to the UFC? How did that happen? I was actually watching some of your highlights, got some nasty elbows. Wow, I think it was ground and pound, your elbow, and that, oh my God. It was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
But yeah, when was the time when the UFC came knocking and said we would like to fight, you know, contract you as a fighter?
Well, the UFC announced that they were having an event in my hometown in Auckland in New Zealand, and I put my hand up for that thing, and I got on social media and I said, hey, I'm the best fighter in the country. You can't bring a show to my hometown and not put me on the card. You know, I'm the best guy here. Give me a contract. And we started a hashtag. Yep. I think it was, you know, Hangman for UFC, and everyone got behind, or harassed for the Hangman, and I just had people on Twitter, yep, on Facebook, on Instagram, just hashtagging that, and just, you know, going after Dana White and Sean Shelby, going after the matchmakers, and it really caused up a lot of fuss. And then I got Joe Silver's email, sent him an email like, hey, you know, I'm the best guy. Can I get a shot? He said, I'll pass you on to Sean Shelby. He messaged me back, can you make 145? I said, yep, sure, because I was fighting at lightweight at the time. He said, can you make featherweight? That's all the message said. I said, yes. The next thing, contract came shooting through. So within 2 or 3 emails, I was in the UFC and it was all on.
Wow. What's that feeling like?
Yeah, it was a bit of a rush. You know, I got that contract 6 weeks out, and there just wasn't enough time to stress. I got in the gym, I broke down my opponent, I worked hard in the gym, and it kind of just happened all in a bit of a whirlwind. You know, I didn't have too long to prepare for that.
And, you know, your first UFC fight, what was it like walking out in the UFC, you know, arena, the ring?
Yeah, people think it's this big set, you know, you're in the UFC now, you're going to, you know, take things a bit more seriously, you're going to train a bit harder now. It's like, I've been treating every fight like a UFC fight since my first fight, you know. Every fight I have, I put everything into, and I treat like a UFC championship. So when I get to the UFC, it wasn't that big of a mental shift for me. I didn't put any more pressure on myself than I do for any other fight. You know, if I'm fighting in the local show and there's 100 people there, or if I'm fighting in the UFC and there's 50,000 people there, I don't treat it any different. I don't put any more pressure on me. I just go out there and perform at my best. And
so what's been, you know, your favourite, you know, that first fight? What was the feelings like when you got in the ring? Were you confident? You're at 145. It probably would have been one of your first fights at 145, which is about 66 kilos in Australian language and Kiwi language. But yeah, so what was it like when you got in the ring, you know, and walk us through that fight and how it all felt and everything like that?
I'm just going to plug my phone in. It's going to die soon.
Yeah, sweet, bro. Smash screen?
Nah, we're all right. get in the same spot. So you want to talk about the first fight?
Yeah, the first fight. You know, what are you feeling? You're in the ring. You know, this is the moment to really prove that you are world class.
I don't know how. I guess every fighter handles it different, or every fighter runs through things mentally different. For me personally, I just went in there super confident, man. Never doubted myself for a second, and I kind of just block everything out. So I don't soak it all in until after the fight. You know, once that bell's rung or the refs pulled me off the guy, then I kind of have a look around and everything sinks in. But before that, I just block everything out. You know, I barely hear my walkout music when I'm walking out. I have the blinders on. You know, I'm like a racehorse, and I got my blinders on, and I'm just focused on that. So yeah, it's like the different venues, 100 people, 1,000 people. Until that bell stops, I don't treat it any different. But it's a lot of rush in the UFC, you know, once you kind of zone out and have a look at 10,000 people screaming at you, it's a completely different feeling.
And so, you know, what's been the most memorable moment for you in the UFC? You know, what's been your favourite fight, maybe one you finished or something like that, or maybe a story in the UFC when you're, you know, maybe leading up to it, or a match that was made?
Yes, so my favourite fight would definitely be my knockout of Hatsu Haoki in Adelaide, at UFC Adelaide. You know, I got a bonus for that fight, so yeah, that was really a game changer for me. But that was definitely it. He had never been finished in, I think, 40 professional fights. He came I remember him coming into the UFC, and he was, you know, next in line for a title. So he was a very serious fighter. Wow. He'd fought the best, and I was very excited for that fight. You know, I hate fights I'm supposed to win, you know, because I kind of fall asleep on him. If this guy's supposed to whoop me and I get those nerves and I kind of rack up those nerves, then that's when I perform at my best. So I was coming into that Hatsu fight, and I was the underdog in that fight. I think it was a 4-1 on the betting. I had the worst odds on the card.
Wow.
And I came in, got my distance on a head kick, landed 3 head kicks before I finally put him out. On the 4th one, I put some heat on it, clipped him with that head kick, followed up with some punches, and that was the best moment for me, you know, having that. And then I was out in the back, and a guy comes up to me and he says, "Oh, you know, just quietly, I'm going to let you know you won one of the bonuses." I said, "Piss off, mate. Like, who are you?" I thought he was messing with me, you know. But he came up, told me I was taking home one of the bonuses, and so, you know, I have to put that down as the best moment of my career.
Oh, wow, man. You know, a guy in line for a title shot, a head kick, and, you know, finishing it off with punches. A lot of guys dream of a finish like that, and yet you got it, you know, and you're still young, so young. You're 26 years old, and you've got this dream finish. It's something that you would cherish forever, I'm assuming.
Oh, definitely. I have 3 wins in the UFC, and they're all pretty devastating finishes. That first one via elbows, head kick, and guillotine choke in a minute of the first round. So that's 3 finishes in the UFC, and I'm looking to get 4 finishes in the UFC. Sounds pretty good to me, so that's what I'll be going out there to get, man.
And so, you know, we look at all the positives and everything that you've gone through, you know, in your career. It just seems to be a continued progression up. At 26 years old, already 3 finishes in the UFC. But what has been the hard times in your career? Have there ever been times, you know, maybe at the start you weren't earning much money, but you were fighting, and, you know, what's been the hard times in your career where you've really had to pull it together and push through those tough times?
Yeah, I guess for me, I've always made this thing a priority, and I've always been all or nothing with this. I think I was 3-3 in my pro career, and I'd lost that fight, and I decided, you know, I'm gonna pack this in, and I'm gonna work. I went to work with my mate was doing some door-to-door sales, and so I thought, yeah, I'll try that, mate. I didn't even knock on a door. I went along with him day one. He knocked on a few doors, got a few bad reactions. I said, nah, I'm going back to training. I don't care if I'm 3-3. I don't care if I never make it, but I'm gonna completely commit to this, win or lose. I love this, and this is what I'm gonna do. So for me, it's never really been a choice. I always pack a sad when I lose because I'm so competitive, but that hunger, it fires right back up, Monday morning, and I want to get back in the gym. So putting this as a priority and never really second guessing myself is why I've achieved what I've achieved in such a short space of time.
And so what's your record in the UFC now?
So it's 3 wins via finish and then 2 losses via decisions.
So that's a pretty good record. A lot of people, we look at boxing and we've only got this reference point from boxing where you can never lose and rah. But because MMA is so broad, a loss, can really, especially decision loss. Decision losses can be really close as well. But 2 losses, 3 wins at 26 years old, you're really on a bit of a really good platform to bounce on to really good things, if you know what I mean. You've got 5 fights under your belt, you've finished blokes, no one's finished you, so you're really good at, staying in there and not being finished and being, obviously you're not a safe fighter because you finished 3, you know what I mean, but you're still really good at not being finished, which is a skill in itself. Is that something you feel that you've kind of done your apprenticeship now in the UFC and you're ready to go to the next level, maybe start fighting towards a title shot in maybe 2 or 3 years? In saying that, 145 division is crazy. Edgar, Aldo just retired, so that's one gone. You've got Max Holloway is going really well. Jason, is it Stevens?
Jeremy Stevens,
the guy Jeremy Stevens. Who the fuck is that guy? So is that what you feel like? You've really set yourself up for a great foundation to bounce on to bigger things with UFC?
That's definitely been like a recent mental development, which I was saying earlier. The confidence has been the last kind of key component to my success, I think, coming in. Coming into the UFC, when I got the contract, I was just had in my head, oh, well, this is a bit sooner than I thought, but let's see how this goes. And carrying that sort of attitude, is what led to me being 2-2 in the UFC and having that mixed record. Now that I know I'm so much better than that and what I can potentially achieve in the UFC, it's been a mental shift this last year. And I just want to get in there, and I have something to prove. I want to prove that I'm the best fighter in the world. So that's been the mental shift. That's been the last kind of key component. I've got the skill. I've got the physicality. I've got the weight cut down. I've got all those parts. Now I have the mental side and that confidence side. It's the final component to the finished product now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. It's all about how you come after a loss, and I think that's where Ronda Rousey lost a lot of fans. Although she is coming back now, I think she lost a lot of fans because she lost and then went away for a year. I know she'd had a crazy run and movies and all that kind of stuff, but it really anyone can go in there and win and be like a superstar. It's real metal that is tested when you lose and then you come back. So I totally agree. But have you got any funny stories of the boys pranking each other, or what's a training day like for you, or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I thought I'd tell you about my favourite fight I've had in my career, or my most memorable fight. This is when I fought the heavyweight guy. So they always call it out, Dan Hooker's fought heavyweight all the way down to featherweight. But I never fought at heavyweight. I fought a heavyweight. So I fought at my first time cutting to featherweight, 66 kilos, and then 2 weeks later, I took a fight short notice at heavyweight. I think it was my gym I was training with was putting a show on that weekend, and I go into the gym, I think it was Tuesday night, and my coach gets a phone call, and he comes back out of his back room, and he's, this is bullshit, and the heavyweight who was supposed to headline the card, from our gym had broken his hand that week. And he's, he couldn't fight with one hand, blah, blah, blah. And, he was getting pretty upset about it. And I said, well, how much does the guy weigh? And he says, I don't know, about...
Happy to... now we do. And it's Hooker that takes him down. Can he hold him there? Well, he's got the full mount already. Hooker doing a great job. Turns round. Wow. Here goes the big knee. The Kiwi pride rules. He can take him down. Oh, well, good work from both fighters in that exchange.
Well, I don't believe a lighter man could have got out of that.
Well, no, that's the experience of Hooker. So, you know, we've got some great fighters in this country. As Terry Hill alluded earlier on. Oh, nice work down to the body. That was had a little bit of an effect, that left hook to the body from from Daniel Hooker. Straight down the middle.
Really changing from southpaw to orthodox.
Oh, he eats
right
another
hand.
knuckle sandwich, does Creedy. And Hooker starting to get a little bit of confidence. Oh, that will
Yeah, grabs
set
it the other guy, puts it back in.
Yeah. So we see the kickboxing skills of Daniel Hooker, who has fought in that capacity.
Yes, good chopping leg kicks there.
So too, of course, has Creedy been in the kickboxing ring, 4-1 record. Reckons it should be 5-0.
Oh,
Ah!
Got some,
up here, some good shots getting thrown.
yeah, Hooker going down to the body. Creedy, oh, beautiful.
No,
And
very good
he's
referee.
backed up onto the ropes as Hooker comes forward. Not sure how long goes.
Ooh.
And another.
Oh, he's got the hooks in. He's got
Yeah.
one hook in.
Oh, so he goes
soccer
kick to the head. Well, I thought it might come. I didn't know he'd get the up. Wow, he's getting it. Wow, what a surprise. He said no more, no mess.
So, do you have footage of that at all? Is it all right if I download that and use that in as you talking over? Do you know the owners of the fighting in that? Oh, I swear.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd tell you about my favourite fight
Oh
I've had in my
God.
career, or my most
How
memorable
was your head
fight.
the next day? How are you feeling? Oh. So, was there any time in the fight where you've thought, I've done the wrong thing here, I'm stupid? This is why weight divisions matter. You're at 80, you're at flyweight, so you normally fight at 66 kilos. He would be double your weight. Was there any time when you're like, this was crazy, I'm an idiot, I'm too cocky, I should just not be doing this, shouldn't be in here?
Yeah, not for a second, man. I think a lot of people were interested as to how that fight would have kind of played out, because he was definitely not an easy fight. You know, he's fought for New Zealand heavyweight title. He's beaten some of the best heavyweights in the country. He was definitely a solid fighter.
The next
but
night
not
they kind of
for 1 second. Did I second guess myself? And I have that ability. I think every fighter has that ability. No matter who I get matched up against,
and the guy was definitely
I 100%
no mug.
can convince myself. You know, if they said, Dan, you're going to fight Cain Velasquez in a month, I might freak out for about 5 minutes, and then I'll start planning, and I'll start going, oh well, I'll be able to catch him with this shot. And I guarantee you 100% by the time it comes to fight, I would have convinced myself 100% that I'm going in there to win. So I think it's an innate ability which I possess, and I'm thankful I have it. Stepped in that cage, and it was
man.
now
So,
when
I mean,
it
also-
was a hell of an exchange. It was
featherweight,
you know, when people try to intimidate you or
soccer
talk
kicks
rubbish,
and
it's kind of like, mate, a lot bigger men than you have tried to put me away and failed.
So I went 10
I don't
minutes
think it's going to
back
happen
and
in a hurry.
forth.
Well, exactly what I was going to say. You know, you wouldn't have known this at the time. You just took the fight because you love to fight. But the confidence that's going to give you for the rest of your life, knowing that you can stand with a 120 kilo guy that is
it
a
was going
legit
lot
MMA
better in
fighter.
my
I
head.
mean, that confidence is
Not one
unvaluable.
second
Like, you
that
cannot put a
that
price
I
on that.
second guessed that I was going to win.
Oh,
that
definitely
fight.
not. You know,
And
I
late in
100%
the
guarantee
second
that
round,
no featherweight in the
about
world is
3
going to be
minutes
able
in,
to
I
put
went
me
to
away
take his
with
back,
shots if I can take shots.
and he'd
Because
slid
in
me
that
off the
fight,
first
if
round. He
you
was
do
too
catch
big.
the clip, it was a
I
back
went
and
to
forth,
kind of jump
wild
on his back, and he
exchange,
was
man.
too big, and he
We
kind
were
of just
going
shrugged me
after
off.
each other.
So I
I was
remembered
standing
that
in
for
front
the
of him
second
and swinging
round.
leather, man.
Instead
I
of
wasn't,
taking his back, I came
I wasn't
round
running
and I
or
just
had a
soccer kicked
tactic
him
to kind of
square in the
tire him
face.
out. I was just going after him.
To my
you know?
surprise, he
That's
kinda, I
crazy,
kicked him
man.
as
So
hard
you're
as I
banging
could
with a
as well,
120
man.
kilo
And I got
guy.
quite
So
a
what did he
boot
say
on
after the fight? Was he like,
stood
you're a
up
crazy man?
anyway, and I
Oh,
was
he
just
just
like,
told me
man,
I'm a
going
tough
for it.
SOB,
Started
and I
swinging
said,
on
thanks
him,
for the
and
fight,
he
man.
turned away and waved off the fight. So it was a
I
hell of
got
an
so
exchange.
much respect
You
for
know,
the
we
guy.
both gave
Mark
it
Creedy,
all.
super.
I think I had both eyes
Heaps, a
shut
ton of
and my
respect.
mouth
You know,
was,
we shared something
wide
in there.
open, but it was a heck of a
Kind of
fight,
beat up
and
on
I'm
each other,
glad
and
I
I've
kinda
got
put
nothing
that
but
one in the
respect
book,
for the
But I
guy.
definitely promised
But having that confidence, you know, I fought in 8-mans as well, kickboxing, so that's winning 3 fights in one night. I fought in 4-mans, winning 2 fights in one night. Fought at heavyweight, so I have all these things, which I think, you know, why would I ever fear one man at my own weight class when I've beaten, you know, 3 men in one night or someone double my size? So I don't think anyone can have a mental impact on me that's going to make me worried or afraid for myself or make me doubt myself in the UFC.
And so, do you have any funny stories? You know, the boys playing pranks on each other. Is there anyone that, you know, is in the UFC that's a real prankster? Obviously, we know Alex the Hulk Volkanovski. He's a absolute legend of a bloke. Couldn't be nicer. But is there any stories like that of pranks or some funny stories where you've maybe done something stupid yourself? Or
Oh, mate. So I went over and trained the Elevation Fight Team in Denver. And so one of my favorite fighters of all time has been Donald Cerrone.
oh,
And so I
Cerrone,
was-
cowboy.
You know, yeah, and he showed up to the gym one day for a jiu-jitsu session. And I was thinking, man, like I've been wanting to meet this guy. He's one of my favorite fighters. Like he's the only fighter I really, you know, idolized or looked up to. And he says, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "Oh, I'm from New Zealand." He says, "Oh, so you F sheep?" I said, "You know, I was I was a bit shocked at the time." He says, "Yeah, you're a sheep shagger, aren't you?" Yeah, not for a second, man. Where'd you get that from? No, that's not us, mate. Like, a lot of people were interested as to how that fight would have kind of played out because he was definitely not an easy fight. You know, he's fought for New Zealand heavyweight title. He's beaten some of the best heavyweights in the country. He was definitely a solid fighter, but not for 1 second did I second guess myself. And I have that ability. I think every fighter has that ability. No matter who I get matched up against, I don't think that guy's 100% to begin with can convince myself. You know, if they said he's going to fight, he rolled Cain Velasquez in a month, I might freak out for about 5 minutes, and then I'll start planning,
he's always throwing
and I'll
banter
start
out,
going,
constant banter back and
I'll
forth
be able
kind
to
of
catch
stuff.
him with this shot. And I guarantee you 100% by the time it comes to fight, I would have convinced myself 100% that I'm going in there to win. And that's the truth. So I think it's an innate ability
And so,
which
you know,
I
going into
possess,
this
and
next
I'm
kind of
thankful
12
I have
months
it.
for yourself. What's the plan? Where do you want to be in
But
12 months'
now
time?
when I fight it, then in 12 months time,
featherweight,
you know, people try to intimidate you or talk rubbish. It's kind of like, mate, a lot bigger men have get than you have tried in Australia and be headlining cards. I don't think it's going to happen in a hurry. Fight out. Fight in the States, keep building my name, keep building my record, and then drag a fight show back here, and I'll be headlining cards within 12 months, I guarantee it.
Oh, nice, brother, nice. And I ask all the guests this, favourite rapper of all time?
What's that?
I ask all the guests this, favourite rapper or hip-hop artist of all time?
Big L.
Big L.
Yeah.
Nice, okay. It's underground, bit underground. Okay, favourite movie of all time?
Ooh, Gladiator.
Oh, 100%, bro. That's the best movie ever. Oh, my God.
I do not entertain!
Well, I mean, you are the modern-day gladiators. And if you could have a billboard saying anything, anywhere, what would it say?
Hangman for president.
Well, for president, not even
Yeah.
prime minister. You're going to change the whole thing.
Mate, if Donald can get in there, I'm sure the Dan the Hangman Hooker can.
Oh, 100%, bro. I would 100% vote for you over Donald Trump. He is a fucking crazy person. And Any other, you know, stories or things for the fans that you can remember, or is there something that you enjoy, something that about MMA that you enjoy that fans wouldn't know about, or something you want to say to your fans?
No, just thanks for supporting. I think I need to get some lunch in. I'm running low on glycogen.
Bro, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure you'll get the W on Melbourne's card, which is how far away is it? Rockhold Jokere. But how far away is it now?
5 weeks. I think we're 5 weeks out now, or 6 weeks out now.
Well, I'm sure you get the W, man. But thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Whether it's $100 refer a friend for existing customers or $50 for $150 for new customers, I have plenty of deals for all types of punters. Inbox me for details.